everyone, it's Alyssa. We are hanging out in the library today and we have got a great story to dive into. But before we get there, let me tell you about something that happened last week. So my youth group and I went to serve at a community dinner and I was so excited to serve plates of food and have great conversations with people. But when I got there, they put a stack of cutlery in front of me and napkins and said, your job is to take a fork and a knife and roll it into a napkin. And I thought, oh, this isn't the big, important job that I came here to do. But as I got into the job, I started to realize that this is just as significant a way of showing God's love and caring for people. People will come and realize that someone took the time to roll this piece of cutlery for them so that they would feel special and cared for. You see, you, me, your friends sitting around you, we each have a specific and unique role to play in God's story. And that's why today's big idea is that everyone has a part to play in God's story. Okay, in this series, we are launching from the very beginning, from when God created the world, and we're zooming in on the life of one specific guy who made a big difference. No, I'm not talking about Jesus, but this guy came from the same family that Jesus did. As many of us know, the Bible starts with the creation story, how God created the world and it was very good. From there, we get to the story of the first people and how they disobeyed God and how there were consequences for that. But then God had a plan to reconnect with his people. And then we get the story of the first family, and then their family, and so on and so on. Then we get to focus on one couple, Abraham and Sarah. And God chose them to start one big family who would grow into one big nation. And God said that the whole world would be blessed by their family. Abraham and Sarah have a son named Isaac, and Isaac marries Rebekah, and then they have a son named Jacob. And then God changed Jacob's name to Israel, and his family became known as the Israelites. That's God's big family and nation. Okay, are you tracking? Abraham was the dad of Isaac, Isaac was the dad of Jacob. Good? All right. So then Jacob started to have kids, and a lot of kids. And so we're gonna meet them reading from Genesis 35. Here are the 12 sons Jacob had. Leah was the mother of Reuben, Jacob's oldest son. Her other sons were Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, and Zebulun. The sons of Rachel were Joseph and Benjamin. The sons of Rachel's female servant Bilhah were Dan and Naphtali. The sons of Leah's female servant Zilpah were Gad and Asher. These were Jacob's sons. They were born in Paddan Aram. So this might sound a little strange, but back then in those times, men often had more than one wife. That's why we have both Rachel and Leah. And then to have even more kids, often the servants had babies too. That's where Zilpah and Bilhah come in. And even though they were servants, and servants wouldn't have been considered very important in those days, we know that they have value in God's story. And thousands of years later, we know their names, Zilpah and Bilhah. That just goes to emphasize today's big idea, that everyone has a part to play in God's story. So Jacob's 12 sons were Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, Zebulun, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, Asher, Joseph, and Benjamin. Okay, 12 sons, that is a lot. Now, remember earlier when I said that we were gonna focus in on one guy? Well, it's one of Jacob's sons. Do you wanna guess which one? If you said Joseph, you got it. Now, back then, it would have usually been the oldest brother who was the most influential or important. But as you'll learn throughout this series, that wasn't the case with this family. Because Joseph, even though he was just one of 12 brothers and wasn't the oldest or smartest or tallest or strongest, he still had a really important role to play in his family and in God's story. And we're gonna learn more about that next time. Because God loves each of us individually and loves partnering with us as his kids, we can be certain that everyone has a part to play in God's story. We are all very different and very unique, but we can know for certain that God has a role for us to play, and that is really cool. So when you wake up each day, remind yourself that you have a part to play in God's story. I've had a blast today, guys, and I will catch you next time.